Jack Porter stood at the window of his empty corner office, watching rain streak down the glass as he held the torn contract in his trembling hands. 90 minutes earlier, he'd been one step away from closing a $900 million acquisition deal that would have secured his daughter's future forever. Now, he was walking away with nothing but his dignity. But as he would soon discover, dignity was worth far more than he'd ever imagined. If you're inspired by stories of ordinary people finding extraordinary courage in the face of overwhelming odds, please hit that like button and subscribe for more content that celebrates the triumph of integrity over wealth and power. Jack's morning had started like any other. At 5:30 a.m., he'd gently woken 6-year-old Emma, helped her brush her teeth, and prepared her favorite breakfast, banana pancakes with a smiley face made of blueberries. "Daddy, are you going to be rich today?" Emma asked, her voice muffled by pancake. Jack smiled, straightening his only designer tie, a gift from his late wife, Melissa. "We might be, sweetheart. But remember what we always say?" Emma's eyes brightened. "Being kind is better than being rich. That's my girl." Jack kissed the top of her head, inhaling the strawberry scent of her shampoo. "Mrs. Gonzalez will be here any minute to take you to school. I'll pick you up by 4, I promise." Emma nodded solemnly. "Even if you're rich?" "Even if I'm rich," Jack confirmed, his heart twisting with love for this small human who'd become his entire world after Melissa's death 3 years ago. At 32, Jack Porter was considered a miracle worker in the tech industry. His company, Safe Haven Security, had revolutionized affordable home security systems, making them accessible to working-class families in ways previously unimaginable. What had started in his garage 5 years ago now employed 87 people and served over 2 million customers nationwide. The Rothwell family, one of America's oldest industrial dynasties, had offered to acquire Safe Haven for $900 million. The deal would integrate Jack's innovative technology into their vast portfolio of luxury properties and high-end security services. Today was supposed to be the final signing. Jack had driven to the gleaming Rothwell headquarters in downtown Seattle, rehearsing his acceptance speech and fighting back tears as he imagined telling Emma that they would never have to worry about money again. That he could finally quit missing school plays and parent-teacher conferences. That Melissa's medical bills, which had nearly bankrupted him, would finally be paid off. The Rothwell's executive conference room overlooked Puget Sound, its floor-to-ceiling windows offering a panoramic view that seemed to proclaim the family's dominance over the city. Carson Rothwell III, the 68-year-old patriarch, sat at the head of a massive mahogany table, flanked by his son Preston and daughter Catherine. "Jack, my boy." Carson boomed, not bothering to stand as Jack entered. "The man of the hour. Sit, sit." Jack took his place across from the Rothwells, his attorney Rachel Kim beside him. The preliminary pleasantries were exchanged, coffee was served in bone china cups that probably cost more than Jack's first car. "Before we sign," Carson said, sliding a document across the table, "there's been a slight adjustment to our agreement." Rachel stiffened beside Jack. "Mr. Rothwell, we've already negotiated all terms. The contracts were finalized last week." Preston Rothwell, a man in his 40s with cold eyes and a permanently dismissive expression, waved his hand. "Just a minor amendment. Given current market conditions, we're adjusting the offer to $750 million. "That's a $150 million reduction," Jack said quietly. "That's not minor." Catherine Rothwell smiled thinly. "It's still life-changing money for someone like you." The phrase hung in the air. "Someone like you." The contract was already agreed upon, Rachel insisted, her voice tight. Carson leaned forward. "Look, Jack. You've built an impressive little operation, especially considering your—" He paused, searching for the right words, "humble beginnings. But let's be realistic. You're a single father running a company out of converted warehouse space. We're offering you generational wealth." Jack felt a flush of heat rising up his neck. My company's valuation is speculative at best, Preston interrupted. Your patents are valuable, yes, but the rest? Your leadership team consists of college dropouts and second-chance hires. Your COO was an ex-con, for God's sake. Marcus served his time 15 years ago and has been instrumental to our success, Jack replied evenly, thinking of his loyal operations officer who'd become his closest friend. And that's admirable, Catherine said with practiced sympathy. Your little social experiment, hiring people with colorful backgrounds. But Rothwell Industries has standards to maintain. Carson slid another document forward. The new agreement also stipulates a management transition. You'll stay on as a figurehead CTO for 1 year, then move to a consulting role. That wasn't what we discussed, Jack said, his stomach tightening. I was supposed to lead the integration and expansion. Plans change, Preston said with a dismissive shrug. Our investors aren't comfortable with someone of your profile at the helm of a Rothwell acquisition. Jack looked at Rachel, whose expression confirmed his growing suspicion. This wasn't a negotiation tactic. This was a calculated humiliation. What exactly is my profile? Jack asked quietly. Carson exchanged glances with his children before answering. Jack, you're a remarkable young man. Self-made. Determined. But let's be candid. You don't have the pedigree for executive leadership in our organization. No Ivy League education. No family connections. And your personal circumstances. You mean being a widower raising a daughter on my own? It suggests a lack of focus, Catherine said, as if explaining something simple to a child. Executive leadership requires undivided attention. Jack thought of Emma's face that morning, of her quiet understanding when he'd missed her kindergarten graduation because of an investor meeting, of how she'd saved him a piece of cake wrapped in a napkin. Preston consulted his watch. We have another meeting in 30 minutes. The terms are fair. $750 million, transitioning to a technical advisory role. Take it or leave it. Jack looked at the documents before him, at the Rothwell family's impassive faces, at Rachel's worried expression. He thought about his team, about Marcus and the others who'd believed in his vision when no one else would. He thought about the promises he'd made to them. And then, with a clarity that surprised even himself, Jack Porter stood up. Thank you for your time, he said, gathering his papers. But I'll have to decline. The room fell silent. Carson Rothwell's expression darkened. You're turning down $750 million? Don't be absurd. My company is worth what we agreed upon, Jack replied. And my team deserves the leadership roles we discussed. Those weren't arbitrary requests. Preston scoffed. You're making a career-ending mistake. Jack paused at the door. Maybe. But I'd rather fail on my own terms than succeed on yours. The walk back to his office had been the longest of Jack's life. Rain had started to fall, matching his mood as he called his leadership team together to break the news. 3 months later, Jack sat on a park bench watching Emma chase bubbles across the grass, her laughter carrying on the spring breeze. His phone buzzed in his pocket, a text from Marcus. Chinese conglomerate called. They're interested. Initial offer, $1.2 billion. No management changes. Jack slipped the phone back into his pocket without replying. He'd answer later. For now, he had a bubble-chasing date with the most important person in his world. 6 months after walking away from the Rothwells, Safe Haven Security went public in one of the most successful IPOs of the year. Jack rang the opening bell with Emma on his shoulders and his leadership team surrounding him. The company was valued at $3.2 billion by closing. 1 year later, Jack established the Melissa Porter Foundation, named after his late wife, dedicated to supporting single parents in the technology sector with childcare, flexible work arrangements, and educational opportunities. And when Carson Rothwell III approached him at a charity gala, hand extended in a gesture of reconciliation. Jack shook it firmly. "You've done well for yourself, Porter," Carson admitted grudgingly. "Perhaps we misjudged you." Jack smiled. "Perhaps we misjudged each other. My daughters taught me that second chances are important." "Your daughter sounds wise beyond her years." "She is," Jack agreed. "And she's waiting for me at home. If you'll excuse me, I promised her I'd never be late for bedtime stories again, not even for billionaires." As Jack drove home that night, he reflected on the journey of the past year. He hadn't known it at the time, but walking away from that humiliating meeting had been the first step towards something far greater than a $900 million deal. It had been the beginning of building something authentic, a company that reflected his values, a life that honored his promises to Emma and to Melissa's memory, and a legacy defined not by wealth but by integrity. Emma was waiting at the window when he pulled into the driveway, her face lighting up at the sight of his car. And Jack Porter, now a billionaire many times over, knew with absolute certainty that the most valuable thing he possessed couldn't be measured in dollars. Some things, as it turned out, were truly priceless. The story of Jack Porter reminds us that true wealth isn't measured by bank accounts but by the courage to stand by our principles even when it costs us everything. If this story touched your heart, please hit that like button and subscribe for more content that celebrates everyday heroes finding their power in a world that too often values the wrong things.